Remembering Sue Johanson.
What does an old lady like me know about sex?
The Canadian who brought straightforward sex advice to TV.
She was never judgmental, nor was she condescending.
The woman who taught millions about sex, Sue Johanson, has died.
How do you feel you would perform in bed with two females?
Remembering the TV host who never shied away from a tough question. Now, Sue Johanson, this woman is being remembered tonight as someone who didn't just change the conversation around sex, she ignited it. Never bashful or judgmental, she spent decades doling out blunt advice on radio and TV. As Nick Purdon shows us, Canadians adored her for it.
How do you feel you would perform in bed with two females?
Well, I personally think I'm pretty good.
Sue Johanson, grandmother, nurse, sex educator.
One size fits all. Relax, guys, you're covered.
Since 1982, she answered Canada's questions about sex. Any question you could imagine.
I want to know how it'd have to be to have an abortion.
Johanson began on radio in Toronto. She said there was a simple reason why her callers told her things that they'd never tell anyone else.
Because they're desperate. They can't find anybody else that they can really open up to, who will trust, who will not put them down.
Johanson was trained as a nurse in Winnipeg by nuns who wouldn't talk about sex. She soon learned that Canadian teens didn't know very much about it, or contraception. She started the very first high school birth control clinic in the country.
I figure I've got about 15 seconds to establish credibility, to prove to you that I know what I'm talking about.
I've got a question.
Johanson soon had her own syndicated TV show, and at her peak, she taught about sex in more than 20 countries and in 5 languages. She became a celebrity. But to Canadians, Sue Johanson was always our sex lady.
She has been a strong, successful advocate.
In 2001, she was awarded the Order of Canada.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Johansson's final show aired in 2008, but she never stopped taking questions. Now she's being remembered fondly by her fans and her family.
I think at first it was a little awkward. When my sister and I were both young, we were a bit awkward about it. But then as we got older, I think our pride just grew and grew. And then we just became so proud of this amazing mother.
Sue Johanson was 93. Nick Purdon, CBC News, Toronto.
She was so cool.
Giants to pay up.
You can always find things that you can use as a sex toy.
What the hell are you talking about?
Plus, the life and legacy of beloved Canadian broadcaster and trailblazing sex educator, Sue Johanson.
It would get very hot in there, I would think.
You better believe it, darling.
Up next, remembering beloved Canadian sex educator, Sue Johanson. For generations of Canadians, she was known for her straight talk on taboo topics. Sue Johanson, a celebrated educator who spoke about sex with an uncommon frankness and honesty, has died at the age of 93. Heather Yerkes-West looks at her legacy and why her message remains relevant today.
I was told that the first thing you want to do is dispel some common myths.
Men are convinced that to be a good lover, they've got to have this humongous...
As a sex educator, Sue Johanson had no fear.
Strike mattress on it.
By the early 2000s, her celebrity as the granny who'd answer all your intimate questions had spread to Hollywood. But for decades, Sue Johanson was Canada's own.
Condoms. They'll do the trick.
Educating young people over the airwaves long before it was possible to do a Google search.
She had that very deep voice, and I remember being at the time kind of shocked, like, oh my gosh, she's talking about that?
After navigating her own teenage years without a mother, Johanson opened Canada's first birth control clinic inside a high school when her own daughter was still a student there.
I'm so proud of who she was and what she did.
With her call-in radio show launched in 1984 and a TV show later on, Johanson helped young people learn about sex as the world came to grips with AIDS.
Mom was fearless and made no bones about having a lot of AIDS patients from Casey House come up to her cottage every summer.
Although she slowed down in her 80s, Johanson never truly retired. Pained in recent years to see so much progress made for women's sexual health, appear to take steps back.
Especially about abortion in the States, that I remember once she reacted by just shutting her eyes, shaking her head, and turning her head away. Just like, I can't fix this.
But because of her legacy, a new generation of educators have stepped in to take her place.
I was never seen as a sex kitten. I had the gift of the gab.
Life lessons from a tough-talking granny millions of Canadians will never forget. Heather Urex West, Global News, Calgary.
Thanks, Sue. And that is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's your
Plus, remembering celebrated sex educator Sue Johanson.
For some people, it is a real turn-on.
The Canadian trailblazer who turned taboo topics into teachable moments.
Gotta have this humongous.
Amazing. After the break.
Hello and welcome to Talk Sex.
Remembering Sue Johanson, the Canadian who took the stigma out of sex ed. Generations of Canadians and Americans knew Sue Johanson as a trailblazer for sex education, tackling taboo topics and shattering stereotypes. The celebrated educator died at the age of 93, but as CTV's Heather Wright explains, she leaves behind a unique legacy.
Welcome to the Sunday Night Sex Show.
When it came to sex, there was nothing Sue Johanson wasn't comfortable talking about.
You can fool around.
Yeah.
You can do everything else. You can have a marvelous time.
A nurse by training, Johanson rose to fame in the 1990s with her no-nonsense, straight talk about sex.
You lost your virginity.
Yeah, about 7 months ago.
Yes.
First on a radio call-in show.
For some people, it is a real turn-on.
Then on television in Canada and later the United States.
Bigger is not better.
She just wanted to teach sexual health, and she did that with humor and love.
Sue's daughter Jane says her mom never set out to be a sex educator. But when one of Jane's friends got pregnant as a teen, they turned to Sue.
She could not tell her parents. So my mom just sat her down and started talking to her and then realized, I'm good at this.
Sue started a birth control clinic in a Toronto high school, then began teaching students.
I'm not a threat. I'm not seen as somebody who is being coy, manipulative, or titillating. I can laugh about sex and get away with it because at my age, what else do you do with sex? Okay, let's get on it now.
Listeners trusted Sue with intimate and personal questions. She gave them advice they often couldn't find anywhere else.
It was incredibly revolutionary for a woman who was of her age, who looked the way she did, to be talking so frankly and without shame and without judgment.
Sue Johanson died yesterday at the age of 93. She was a member of the Order of Canada, a mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. She empowered millions, making uncomfortable topics.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh, I lost you.
A little easier to talk about.
Bye-bye.
Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Great smile and great laugh. That's a snapshot of this Thursday. John Ehrlich.
What does an old lady like me know about sex? The answer? Plenty.
A look back at the life of trailblazing sex educator Sue Johanson.
Washington, Alice Barr, NBC.
My mission in life is to promote sex education.
Sunday Night Sex Show host Sue Johanson has passed away. She educated a generation of Canadians on a once taboo topic. We're back in a moment. Her voice filled a massive void, answering the questions of generations who had nowhere else to turn. Sue Johanson made talking about sex funny, easy, and educational. She passed away at the age of 93. Here's CTV's Michelle Dubé.
Hello and welcome to Talk Sex. I'm your host, Sue Johanson, and my mission in life is to promote sex education.
Back when sex was far more taboo, there was Sue.
Me and my girlfriend were wondering if having sex in a hot tub is a good idea or not.
Not. Willing to tackle any topic, driven by a desire to educate.
Mom realized that there's a big hole in a public health system.
Her daughter Jane from Stratford today, reflecting on her mother's legacy.
You felt like you were at home with her, and you felt like you could confide in her, and she would embrace you like a loving grandmother.
You lost your virginity about 7 months ago.
Before Sue Johanson was a household name, the registered nurse realized a lack of sexual education was leading to traumatic consequences. She started a birth control clinic at a Toronto high school in 1970.
I just realized I do not want kids going through this ever again.
In the decades that followed, she toured high schools and colleges.
It's so hard to talk about it because if you're going to talk about it, you got to know what you're talking about.
Destigmatizing and legitimizing questions about sexual health and pleasure.
It was incredibly revolutionary for a woman who was of her age, who looked the way she did, to be talking so frankly and without shame.
Her popularity propelled her from Canadian radio and TV to the American airwaves. Late-night hosts couldn't get enough of her.
Nice to have you here.
Brought the hot stuff bag.
Oh, okay. Let's ramp up to that gradually.
A pioneering, world-renowned sexpert who paved the way for generations to come.
Sue started this so long ago. She taught me about sex. Okay, let's put it in perspective.
Just this year, a documentary about her life won a Canadian Screen Award, an eye-popping reminder of her impact.
I didn't give a damn.
Celebrity and being famous, that was not on her radar and in her agenda. She just wanted to teach sexual health, and she did that with humor and love, and I'm so proud of her.
Sue Johanson died peacefully in Toronto last night, surrounded by her family. She was 93.
Michelle Dubé, CTV News.